Sign it. You're holding me back. That's what Eli said as he tossed the divorce papers across the marble kitchen island. No warning. No lead-up. Just a pen. And a sentence that hit harder than anything she'd ever heard. Then he added it. The part she'd never forget. Arya has the kind of body I need beside me. You've let yourself go. She didn't throw the papers. Didn't cry. Didn't even blink. She just stood there, barefoot, in sweatpants, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold in her hand. Before we go further, let me ask you something. Have you ever given your best to someone, only for them to throw it all back in your face like you were the one who failed? Subscribe if you've ever had to rebuild after someone shattered your peace. Comment, I'm still standing if you're tired of being underestimated. Now let me tell you what happened next. 2 hours earlier, the day had started like any other. Smoothie, morning workout, emails from Eli's assistant. She wasn't just his wife. She ran the numbers behind his tech company, handled operations, proofread contracts, built the systems that made him rich. She never asked for credit. She just wanted love. They had been married 7 years. Met when neither of them had much. Just a shared dream and take-out dinners on the floor of a tiny apartment. But somewhere along the way he grew fast, and she disappeared behind him. The signs had been there. Late nights, locked phones, a strange perfume on his shirts she didn't wear. But she didn't question it, because questioning would mean she didn't trust him. And she always wanted to be the kind of woman who believed in her man. But belief means nothing when someone decides they're done with you. That afternoon he came home early, wearing a different kind of energy. Cool, distant, like a CEO about to fire an employee. She offered him lunch. He declined, then reached into his briefcase, pulled out the folder, dropped it on the counter. You're making this harder than it needs to be, he said. I'll keep the condo. You can take the Mercedes. She stared at him. I don't want the car, she said softly. Then take the alimony. I had my lawyer draft it up. You'll be fine. He paused, then laughed. Besides, you don't exactly have a career to fall back on. Funny how the same man who built with you can forget you ever mattered the second you stop being useful. She didn't fight, didn't beg. She just walked out, down 32 floors, out into the Miami heat. No purse, no shoes, just her phone and 1,000 thoughts racing through her head. She ended up on a park bench across from Biscayne Bay, watching boats drift past like her life hadn't just exploded. Her phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. I'll be picking up your things next week. Please have them ready. That's when she finally cried. Not because it hurt, but because of how easy it had been for them to erase her. Sometimes rock bottom isn't loud. It's just quiet and cold and comes with a message you were never meant to see. She checked her bank app. $6,472.19. That's all she had. But she also had something else. A contact in her phone from years ago. An old mentor. A woman who once said, if you ever need to remember who you are, call me. She hadn't spoken to her in forever. But today, she hit dial. The voice on the other end answered instantly. Sweetheart, the woman said. I've been waiting for you to remember your worth. Come stay with me. Let's get to work. She didn't tell anyone she was leaving. No Instagram post. No dramatic goodbye. She just disappeared. Eli came home that night to an empty walk-in closet and a single note on the bathroom counter. You took what I gave for granted, but you'll never take what I'm about to become. That was it. No name, just a letter. He read it twice, then laughed. She'll be back, he told himself. She doesn't have anywhere else to go. But 3 days passed, then a week, 10 days, and she didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask for her things. What Eli didn't know was, she was already in Orlando, staying in a quiet 2-bedroom with her old mentor, Mrs. Lane, a woman who once ran operations for 3 multimillion-dollar startups, and walked away from all of them to live slower. Mrs. Lane welcomed her with open arms and a firm voice. You've spent years shrinking to make space for a man who had no intention of holding you, she said. It's time to stretch again. So she did. She woke up early, walked every morning, ate food that didn't come in takeout boxes. She cried in the shower, screamed into a pillow, and then she started taking notes, not just on what Eli did, but on what she had ignored in herself. Sometimes the first step to healing is admitting that you saw the red flags and loved them anyway. By week 2, she had reactivated an old laptop. Buried in folders were spreadsheets she had built back when she helped Eli launch his company. Marketing flows, client retention systems, even a hiring plan he never used because she wrote it, not him. She didn't just help him build it. She could build her own. Mrs. Lane watched her every day, didn't hover, didn't baby her, just reminded her softly, your quiet isn't weakness, it's rest. But don't stay silent too long. Back in Miami, Eli was getting louder. He posted beach photos with Aria, took her to rooftop parties, captioned one photo, upgrade complete. But something was off. He kept checking his messages, checking to see if she'd seen the post, waiting for a reaction that never came, because silence was louder than anything he said. They always notice your silence, right after they stop respecting your presence. One night, Eli tried to call. She saw his name light up on her screen. She let it ring, then blocked the number. No hate, no heat, just done. That same night, she made a list. 10 things I'll never apologize for again. Number 1. Outgrowing people who never saw my worth. #2. Saying no without explanation. #3. Starting over without asking permission. She taped it to the fridge. Read it every morning. And every day she believed it a little more. By week 4, she had a domain name, a business name, and a plan. It wasn't just a comeback. It was a beginning. And when Eli finally realized she wasn't coming back, he stopped bragging. Because deep down, he knew he didn't upgrade. He just lost something he couldn't replace. What happens when the person you threw away becomes everything you were pretending to be? And what happens when you finally want them back, but they've already moved on? The problem with pretending you're winning is eventually people ask for proof. And Eli had none. He looked successful on the outside. Fancy suits, rooftop dinners, a new girl on his arm. But inside, he was distracted, short-tempered, unsettled. He kept checking her old Instagram. She hadn't posted anything. No selfies, no subtweets, no breakdown stories, nothing. That silence? It bothered him. Aria noticed it too. You're still thinking about her, she said one night. He didn't deny it. He just looked out over the balcony and whispered. She wasn't supposed to just disappear, but she had. And the longer she stayed gone, the more his grip started to slip. Back in Orlando, she wasn't planning revenge. She was focused. Morning walks. Laptop open by 8 m.1 coffee. One goal. Build something that doesn't need his name on it. Mrs. Lane helped her sketch the blueprint.by week 5. She had a brand name, logo, and a simple website. She didn't launch loud. She just started working with small clients, people who needed systems, structure, and calm. 3 clients turned into 5.5 into 10. She wasn't rich. But for the first time in years, she wasn't invisible. Sometimes the softest comeback is the one no one sees coming, because you're too focused to make noise. Meanwhile, Eli's world kept tilting. He missed a board meeting, snapped at his team, got called out by investors for slipping performance. But the worst moment? The day his assistant walked in and said, "Your ex's company just landed the Aventura Systems account." He froze. Aventura had once turned him down. Now they were working with her. He laughed it off, said, "Good for her." But that night, he threw a glass against the wall. Because deep down, he knew she wasn't just rebuilding. She was becoming everything he never let her be. Aria asked if he was okay. He told her yes. But that night, she packed a bag and went to a friend's place. She wasn't dumb. She could feel it. He wasn't over his wife. He just missed controlling her. They don't always miss you. Sometimes, They just missed the version of you who didn't know her worth yet. In Orlando, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. Later, she listened. It was Eli. I miss you. I see you now. Please, can we talk? She deleted the message. No anger and no drama. Just clarity. She stood by the window that night, looked out at the quiet street. And for the first time, she didn't feel like she was running from anything. She was walking toward something. Herself. The act. It had been 2.5 months. No texts, no contact, no apologies accepted. She didn't need him to be sorry. She just needed space to become someone he couldn't recognize. And now, she was ready to be seen. Her business was growing. Her confidence was steady. She had bought a navy blue blazer that made her shoulders look like power. Then came the invitation. A tech event in Miami. Hosted by one of Eli's investors. He'd be there. So would Arya, most likely. The old her would have said no. But the woman she'd become? She sent her RSVP the same day. Mrs. Lane didn't ask questions. Just looked her in the eye and said, "Don't go to prove anything. Go because you've got nothing left to hide." When she walked into the hotel ballroom in Brickell, everything stopped for a second. Not because she made a scene, but because she didn't have to. No one had seen her in months. They expected her to look broken. Instead, she looked expensive, poised, unbothered. Eli saw her from across the room, Arya on his arm. But his eyes, they didn't leave his ex-wife for 1 second. She didn't wave. Didn't nod. She just kept walking, directly to the CEO of Aventura Systems. They shook hands. She smiled. He smiled back, impressed. Eli watched it all. Jaw tight, fingers clenching his glass. The loudest revengeous becoming everything they said you couldn't, and acting like they never mattered. Later that evening, Eli found her near the elevators. Alone, composed, glowing. He stepped forward. "You look good," he said. She met his eyes. "Thank you," she replied. Long pause. "I've been meaning to call," he added. She smiled softly. "Don't. I deleted the number for a reason." He tried again. "I didn't mean what I said that day. About your body, about Arya." She cut him off. "I know what you meant. And honestly, thank you." He blinked. "What?" She stepped closer. "Because when you broke me, you forced me to find the version of myself you were never worthy of." She turned, pressed the elevator button. As the doors opened, she looked over her shoulder. "Good luck, Eli." Then stepped inside. He didn't just lose her. He lost access to a version of her he'll never meet again. That night, she took the late train back to Orlando. No music, no calls. Just the quiet hum of a woman who knew she did what she needed to do. She didn't cry. She didn't second guess. She just sat by the window and watched her past shrink behind her. It's easy to walk away from someone who broke you. It's harder to face the version of yourself that let it happen. That was where she was now. Not angry. Not busy. Just still. It had been 5 days since the Miami event. No messages from Eli. No curiosity from Arya. No drama. Just silence. But this time, it felt peaceful. She spent the next morning in a local coffee shop. Laptop open. To-do list in front of her. But her mind kept drifting. Back to her old self. Back to the girl who ignored the red flags. Who stayed through excuses. Who made herself smaller in every room just to keep a man feeling big. She closed the laptop. Walked to the mirror in the shop's bathroom. Looked at her reflection for a long time. And whispered, "I'm sorry." Not to him. To herself. Healing isn't just moving on. It's saying sorry to the version of you who didn't know better yet. That night, she journaled for the first time in months. Wrote down things she never had the courage to admit before. "I let love turn into survival. I thought being loyal meant staying silent. I believed success belonged to him more than it did to me." She cried. Not from pain. From release. Because when you write the truth, it stops owning you. The next day, she went on a long walk. No music. Just sneakers on pavement and birds overhead. A little girl on a bike passed her and waved. She smiled back. And for the first time in a long time, she realized she liked who she was becoming. Not just strong, but kind, gentle, clear. That night, she had dinner with Mrs. Lane. Just the two of them. No work talk. No how's the business? Talk. Just grilled salmon, green beans, and soft conversation. At one point, Mrs. Lane said, "You know, you walk differently now. Lighter. Like your heart isn't carrying someone else's shame anymore." She didn't respond. Just nodded. Because sometimes the truest moments don't need words. The glow-up isn't always physical. Sometimes it's in how quietly your soul stops begging for permission. That weekend, she got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a short note. "I see now. You were the light I didn't know how to handle. I hope you find someone who deserves to walk beside it." She folded it once. Dropped it in the trash. Not out of hate. Just peace. Because closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes, it's just a decision. She curled up on the couch that night, legs tucked under a blanket, and no makeup and no pressure. Just her, a cup of tea, and the quiet truth that she didn't need anyone to validate her growth. She had already become the woman she used to need permission to be. The past was behind her. But what now? When the pain is gone, what do you choose to build in its place? She didn't need a huge breakthrough. She just needed a decision. And on a Tuesday morning, with her hair tied back and the sun creeping through the blinds, she made one. She was done working just to prove she was okay. Now, she was going to build something that helped other women get okay too. She took the money she'd saved, $6, $200. Not a lot, but enough. She found a small, shared office in downtown Orlando. Simple, sunlit, with a coffee pot that never worked right and a window view of the street. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. She called it the quiet room, a space for women rebuilding their lives after messy endings. No therapy. No spotlight. Just one table, 6 chairs, and truth. They met weekly, shared stories, swapped job leads, watched each other go from scared to steady. By month 2, the waiting list had doubled. By month 3, she had to move to a bigger space. She didn't go viral. She didn't beg for attention. She just showed up week after week and gave women what she wished someone had given her: space to be real and permission to start over. When you heal out loud, you give other people permission to stop pretending they're fine. One Friday night, she stayed late cleaning up, stacked chairs, wiped the table, then sat down for a moment with the lights low. She looked around the room, thought of where she'd been: Miami, that cold condo, that quiet humiliation, and whispered to herself, "You made it through the fire. Now build the house." The next morning, she opened her inbox and froze. Subject line: podcast interview request. Women who build from rock bottom. It was a national show. 1 with millions of listeners. The host had found her newsletter. At first, she hesitated. But something in her gut said, "Say yes." Not because you're perfect, but because you're proof. 2 weeks later, she sat in front of a mic in a small Orlando studio. The host asked, "What do you think made you finally walk away from a man with power, money, and status?" She smiled gently. "I realized I was trading my peace for a name that didn't even sound like mine anymore." Silence. Then the host said, "That's going to free somebody today. You don't need a platform to change the world. You just need one honest sentence at the right time." That episode aired on a Tuesday. By Thursday, her inbox had over 300 new emails. By Sunday, a woman from New Jersey wrote, "I left last night. I didn't know what I was doing until I heard your voice." She didn't cry. She just closed her laptop, made tea, stood at the window, because she finally understood. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was becoming someone else's reason to keep going. That night, her phone buzzed. A text from a number she hadn't seen in months. "I heard the podcast. I'm proud of you, Eli." She didn't respond. Not out of anger, just because she knew the woman he once tried to break was now someone he couldn't even reach. When you stop chasing validation, that's when the world finally starts watching. She didn't build for applause. She built for freedom. But that didn't stop the world from watching. The podcast episode hit 1 million plays in 10 days. Then came the articles. The woman who left a CEO and built something better. Quiet grace. Loud impact. People wanted interviews, photo shoots, brand deals. She said no to most. Said yes to a few. But only when it felt right. She wasn't trying to become famous. She was trying to stay free. One afternoon, a producer from Atlanta called. "We're doing a docuseries on women rebuilding after betrayal. We'd like you to be our final story." She almost said no. But something in her gut whispered, "Tell the truth, even if your voice shakes." So she flew to Atlanta, wore soft blue, spoke clearly, told her story from the beginning, not just about Eli, but about the version of herself she lost, and the stronger one she found in the silence. When the episode aired, the response was immediate. Emails, letters, DMs from women across the country. One said, "Your story helped me walk out the door I've stared at for 5 years." Another simply wrote, "Thank you for reminding me I still matter." Back in Orlando, she returned to the quiet room. No cameras, no spotlight, just women around a table, talking, growing, showing up for themselves. And her? She was no longer leading from pain. She was leading from peace. One evening, she stayed behind to clean up. As she turned off the lights, she caught her reflection in the glass door. For a moment, she stared. No makeup, tired eyes, full heart. She smiled, not because she was perfect, but because she was real. Later that night, Mrs. Lane stopped by with a bottle of sparkling juice. "You've been featured in 3 national outlets," she said, "and you still do your own dishes. I love that about you." They laughed, sat on the porch, watched the sky fade from pink to purple. Mrs. Lane raised her glass. "To the woman who walked out with nothing but her name and made it mean everything." She clinked her glass. "To the ones who taught me how. You don't become powerful when the world sees you. You become powerful when you see you." The next morning, she got a message from her former mother-in-law. "I watched the episode. I'm sorry for not seeing what you carried. I hope you're proud of yourself." "You should be." She didn't reply. But she smiled. Because closure doesn't always come from who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from who finally understands you. That weekend, she got invited to speak at a National Women's Leadership Summit. All expenses paid. Headlining spot. She looked at the invite, took a breath, and whispered, "I'm ready, not to impress, not to prove, but to stand tall in the truth she built from rock bottom." She wasn't returning to who she was. She was stepping fully into the woman she always knew she could be. The stage wasn't massive, but it felt sacred. Soft lighting, rows of women, an energy in the room that felt like truth waiting to be spoken. She stood behind the podium, not nervous, just still. This was the Leadership Summit. Her name printed boldly in the program. Keynote speaker, Hannah Monroe, founder. The quiet room. She took a breath, looked out across the crowd, saw faces that reminded her of her old self. Tired, brave, waiting, and she began. "I used to believe that being quiet made me weak, that if I wasn't loud, I wasn't powerful, that if I didn't fight for a seat at the table, I didn't belong." She paused. "But then I realized, some of the strongest women I've ever met didn't shout their power. They live it." Applause. Tears. One woman in the back stood and clapped alone for a few seconds before the room followed. She didn't cry. She smiled, because she had already done the crying. Now, she was living the answer. After the speech, she stepped outside. The sun was setting over DC orange skies. Light breeze. She sat on the steps, heels off, hair pinned up. One of the summit coordinators approached her. "You know," she said, "every woman I've spoken to today wants to know more about your group in Orlando." She nodded slowly. "It's just a small room, one table, real talk, The woman smiled. Small rooms change big lives. Healing doesn't always look like a spotlight. Sometimes it's just a woman in flats, changing the world one honest story at a time. Back in Orlando, she returned home to a quiet space. No fancy penthouse. No cold marble floors. Just her couch. Books. Tea on the stove. The doorbell rang. It was a delivery, a single box. Inside, a photo. Her, Eli, and his parents, taken years ago. A note attached. I finally see it now. You were always the glue. I'm sorry it took losing you to learn that. His mother. She didn't hang the photo. But she didn't throw it away either. She tucked it in a drawer. A piece of the past. But no longer her definition. Later that night, she opened her journal and wrote one line. I built peace, and no one can take it from me. She closed it, turned off the light, and let the silence hold her like a soft song. There's a moment in healing when you stop looking back, because forward finally feels like home. If you're watching this, and you've ever been told you weren't enough, too quiet, too soft, too late, remember this: you don't need a title to matter. You don't need revenge to win. You don't need to beg for love that doesn't know how to hold you. You just need one brave choice: to start again. With peace. With truth. With you. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.